Innovation Insights. I'm Frank Balas, and today's topic is going to be information technology in the built environment. Today I have Cheryl Benini as my guest, Head of Smart Infrastructure Strategy from Siemens. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So when Siemens is obviously very active in the building space, doing a lot of work on automation and digitalization. But we hear that the industry is very slow to adopt technology, all the way through the value chain, from construction right through to occupation and building management. Could you just tell me a little bit about how Siemens deals with sort of a challenging market like that?
Yeah, well, you're right. It is challenging. It's challenging because on the one hand, the construction industry is difficult. There are a lot of players that come together, and you're always working with different people on different projects, so it's not so easy to standardize. And on the other hand, if you look at the life cycle cost of a building, you've got 80% of that cost in the operations phase, not in the design and build phase. So we see from our customers that we work with quite a lot on what I would say normal service business. For our traditional business, they're being faced also with opportunities and challenges of bringing digitalization into their operations. So that tends to be where we start, actually. I mean, we are doing things on the product side of things that, in terms of IoT devices and IoT devices with software, that go into new construction and new projects. But the bulk of our work and the bulk of our success has been more on the operations phase. And I'm working with customers to bring digitalization into their world via services, via data-driven services, digital services. We do things that are as simple as having a remote connection to a building. And then being able to look at the building and look at how the building automation system is running. We can change set points. So we need a certain two-way communication with a secure link, things like that sound rather trivial. And, other industries have been doing this stuff for a long time, but you have to set it up and you have to do it. So that's been something we've been steadily, over many years, building up more and more connections to our existing installed base.
So it sounds like the hardware, there's obviously a software component, the whole communication services component. Are you actually involved in providing those services ongoing? So are you actually looking at managing the building itself, or are you more managing the software that runs the building managers would use?
It's a mix. It's a mixture depending on the customer and depending on what they're looking for. So some customers have their own facility managers and their own building managers, and they want us to give them the tools and give them the applications so that they can do things on their own and they can be checking on things. But a lot of times they don't have the visibility. I mean, it's surprising how much is still done in Excel.
Oh yeah.
And so a lot of what we do is provide visibility, provide dashboards, provide monitoring. That can be like a first step and a first way in with the customer, is just give them visibility on what's going on, with their buildings. What's the energy consumption? How does it compare to this same month last year in that building? Normalizing for weather, stuff like that.
So sort of starting with little steps and then maybe going to a control aspect or something.
Exactly, and then maybe we'll do a project. Like we'll say, look, we think that actually if you make these changes, you can have a big improvement. So, and the changes could be either changing out equipment, and then we'll make some recommendations on, instead of these 2 chillers that you have, you could put in 6 smaller chillers with a different kind of algorithm running on them and optimization, and you'll be saving a lot on OpEx and on CapEx.
Right. And so when I look sort of geographically, you see big differences. For instance, very heavy air conditioning load in much of the U.S. Certain places like Switzerland, sort of shun air conditioning altogether. Do you see a big difference in the types of services and technologies that different geographical areas are looking for?
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, there's sort of an air-based world, an air-based part of the market, and a water-based market. And the water-based one is of course more of a heating market, like in Switzerland. But you also see cooling and some innovative cooling uses. Our new building in Zug is actually cooled with lake water. So you can have some chilled beams and some cooling kind of systems that are a bit, they don't work as well as air conditioning, but they're close.
Yeah. Right.
But anyway, so yeah, there are regional differences, of course, in the technology behind it. But I think fundamentally what people are looking for at the end of the day is comfort for the occupants inside, and being able to manage their energy costs and reduce their energy costs over time.
And so when we look at the building automation space, I think it sort of started probably with energy efficiency, and now we're seeing a lot of transitioning into managing the space to optimize it for people working in different ways, maybe sort of hoteling, this kind of thing. Do you see certain technologies that are, sort of up and coming, or maybe places where their technology lacks? I'm kind of thinking, at Emerald, for instance, we see a lot of deals around indoor location services. Do you think that there's sort of a sector where a startup should operate where there might be some missing technology?
Yeah, the indoor positioning is a good point. We talked before about using mapping services that work well outside, and then they just they don't work inside a building,
exactly.
right? And so coming up with these maps inside is a big issue. And even some of the work that we do, like any normal building automation provider, needs drawings, floor plans of the building, right? And so bringing those floor plans even into a traditional building automation plan is a rather manual-ish process, So this whole process of getting information from the design phase into how it's built, and then how it's being run over time in terms of the physical structure, and where the equipment is, and where the rooms are, and have they changed over time. This is a huge area that needs still a lot of work.
Okay, and so I mean, obviously, Siemens has a huge capability to design and develop technology themselves. But obviously looking for external innovation itself. I mean, how do you work with smaller companies?
Yeah, it's not always so easy, but we tend to basically it starts with a customer. It usually starts with a customer and a customer problem. Sometimes a customer will have found a startup. Sometimes we, in our discussions with the customer, will be looking for a solution to solve that particular problem, and we will look for a startup. Some startups come to us. Sometimes we go to them. So it's more like trying to find an answer to a problem. And then we figure out how to work with them. We're working with 2 different startups in the indoor positioning space.
Okay.
So yeah, we definitely think it's a field that's got a lot of importance for the future.
And so, do you could it be a pilot or something that kicks this off?
Yeah, definitely a pilot. I mean, usually that's how things tend to start, as a pilot. And yeah, we'll work together, and at the end see if we can bring a value to the customer. And then once you have that, you have a certain reference. It's easier to show other customers and say, hey, look at what we did together. We could do something similar for you.
Great. Well, thank you very much. It was great to hear about Siemens' view on building automation and digitization. And thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Frank.